Welcome to Supercharge Your 401k presented by Phillips and Company with Vanguard. Our two presenters today are Michael Goodrich, Senior 401k Advisor at Phillips and Company, and Kartika Thornbrew, Regional Director at Vanguard. I'll now turn the call over to Michael Goodrich.
Good morning, and thank you all for being here. My role at Phillips and Company, as Michelle stated, is the Senior 401k Advisor and leader of our 401k team. And we're happy to present this joint webinar on advisors partnering with record keepers and the impact of fees on your plan. We will also be looking forward to answering some questions as we go along. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to our guest, Kartika Thornbrew of Vanguard.
Perfect. Well, thank you, Michelle, and thank you, Michael, for having me this morning. And thanks to all of you that are joining or deciding to join in at your own time by logging in later. Again, my role at Vanguard, I've been with Vanguard Institutional for close to 15 years. And during that time, I've spent entirely with plan sponsors, plan participants, financial advisors like the Phillips team, as well as third-party administrators. And so over those 15 years, I've really had a lot of time and opportunity to get to know plan sponsors and what they're looking for to design an effective retirement program. But in addition to that, I spent a lot of time with participants and getting to know the struggles and challenges that they've seen, really, and just trying to understand and grasp the importance of having a 401k plan and what it means to them. So as Michael had shared, I'm going to review with you some best practices that you as a plan sponsor can adopt in regards to planning your retirement program. And the first of that is really ensuring that you work with an expert like the team here at Phillips and Company. There's a lot of things that you as a plan sponsor, that when you decide to manage a retirement program, there's a lot of fiduciary best practices and guidelines that you need to follow to ensure that what you're doing is in the best interest of your employees. So I'm going to review a little bit about what that looks like and how an advisory plan expert can help, support you in those roles. And then to end it, I'm also going to touch on retirement plan service fees. That's a really hot topic. We always continue to hear about, investment fees, record keeping fees. We're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. We're actually going to uncover different ways that you can pay for that record keeping fee and making sure that how you're paying for your fees is appropriate for your program today. So to jump right into it, as I mentioned, I've worked with many plan sponsors over the years. And one of the most valuable ways that I've helped them is to make them understand why they need to partner with a retirement plan advisor or consultant, just like Phillips and Company. And there's many ways that a retirement plan advisor can provide value for your retirement program, but probably the three primary things that I see is obviously the fiduciary considerations, the second being identifying what the plan objectives are for the program, and then lastly, the plan design and the participant education experience. So the biggest hot topic that we always continue to hear about is the fiduciary risk. And there are some risks associated to you as a plan sponsor. But the great thing about a retirement plan advisor is that they can keep you on schedule with all of the regulatory and administrative requirements. They really have the knowledge and background to navigate the regulatory backdrop. And really what that is that's going to help to avoid any lawsuits and enforcement actions that might potentially fall onto you as a plan sponsor. So on the next slide, what we put together is really just an overview, just so you understand really the high cost of the increasing legal enforcement actions that have been taken by the Employee Benefits Security Administration, or EBSA, against plan sponsors. And what you'll see here is it's resulting largely from excessive plan administration and investment fees at the employee's expense. And then you'll see on the far right column, it really highlights the largest sums paid to settle 401k class action lawsuits. And that's quite a number. So retirement plan advisors deeply understand this complex landscape of the fiduciary law and regulatory compliance as it relates to you and your participants. And so what they're really able to do is, making sure that they're continuing to provide best practices that you can adopt, as well as continually providing fiduciary training to help mitigate all of these risks from settlement and lawsuit. The second area of support on our next slide is really helping you to identify plan investment objectives. And again, this is another area. When I talk to plan sponsors, we have a lot of folks that call into Vanguard that are business owners, and they're wearing 20 different hats. They really don't have the time nor the expertise to sit down and truly evaluate appropriate investment options that are made available to their employees. So this is where it's critical, where you, again, hire an expert or an advisor that can develop a comprehensive investment policy statement, or as we know it, an IPS for your plan. And what this IPS will do, it's going to help prevent performance chasing and market timing, but it will also help address portfolio objectives, asset allocation policy, risk management principles, and governance procedures. I think mentioned earlier, it's always important to document, and this is one of the more critical pieces of documentation that you should always keep on file as a plan sponsor. Another benefit of having an IPS is that it also provides you and your committee and board members with clear instructions for revisiting and modifying your statement and plan menu. So for each of you to reach your plan's investment goals, advisors can sit down with you and help you organize or even tier your investments into well-defined categories, as you see laid out here in the screen. And what this is some basic framework that Vanguard has designed, but it's also really, I think a similar framework that many advisors adopt as well, because what it does, it provides, again, that documented process to how you constructed your plan menu. So that in itself serves as a great reason to have, follow a framework like this. Another benefit of this is that from a participant standpoint, it also helps to organize it for them. A lot of the times with plan participants, several plans that I've seen have over 30, 40, 50 fund options. And that can be really overwhelming for one of your employees. They don't have the knowledge or expertise. As your plan advisor, what they'll do is they'll really refine that plan menu to ensure that you have a well-designed menu that's easy to select from and ensure that they have an appropriate asset allocation strategy. So again, benefits both for you as a plan sponsor and fiduciary, but also helping your participants make it a little bit easier to design their portfolio. Okay. And then, as I mentioned, the last way a financial professional can help you take care of your participants is going to be twofold. The first is being through plan design. There's a lot of different plan design features that I'll get into, but then of course there's also the participant education piece. And so they can help provide support on both angles. So in regards to plan design, they can really support you in regards to plan design construction to maximizing any budgeted dollars that you have for your retirement program. We know that as this retirement program, you're trying to attract and retain the best talent. So your HR team is really focused on those types of things, right? But having them focus on that, then your advisor team can really then help to focus on all of the other things to help coordinate online tools, education, financial wellness, as well as, again, some of those plan design features. So on the next slide, I remember that when I first started working at Vanguard, as I mentioned earlier, I had the opportunity to sit down and work directly with plan participants and educate them on retirement plan basics. But what I've learned is that it's actually not that easy, right? So a lot of the conversations I was having, many of them had zero knowledge on how to save in their plan. And even some of the more common mistakes we see are just as simple as employees not even enrolling in the plan, right? So that's a big problem. So that's why we want to make sure that when you're working with your retirement plan advisor to implement a variety of plan design features as well as educational resources to make it easier for your participants to save for retirement. What you see on the screen here again are just some additional common mistakes that we continue to see with our clients. And these are things that can be easily solved, again, either through education or through plan design features. One of the more commonly adopted plan design features, especially in the last 10 years, is the ability to use a qualified default investment alternative, or a QDIA, right? So as a qualified default alternative, such as perhaps a single target date fund, they're highly effective investment vehicles for those that might not be as engaged in the plan. And so this is really used for when employees aren't selecting their own funds and designing their own asset allocation. Participants will then be placed into the appropriately balanced target date fund based on their date of birth. So it's a really good option to ensure that they're placed in an appropriately balanced program.
And you're seeing that being used in more and more plans as the QDIA.
Absolutely. At Vanguard, we do an annual survey through our How America Saves report. And what we found is close to 99.9% of all of our plan participants use a QDIA. 90% of that are in using single target date funds. So absolutely. It's, again, that's another checkbox that a plan sponsor can take off by just simply designating the QDIA. That's an easy one.
Great.
Yep. Another plan design feature that, again, really commonly can help solve enrollment, but in addition to that, also some testing issues, is automatic enrollment and re-enrollment sweeps. And with these strategies, again, as the name says itself, what this will provide is ensuring that all of the employees, once they become eligible, will automatically be placed into the plan at a designated savings rate. Again, this is something that we see plan sponsors continually updating. In that annual survey, what we found is about 48% of our clients are now using automatic enrollment. And that's been a significant increase even again in the last 10 years when it was sub 20%. So that number is, we are seeing more and more plan sponsors continuing to adopt that strategy because of the effectiveness that it has with plan participants. In regards to auto enrollment, typically everybody's like, well, how much should I default to? I would say most of our employees are usually doing it at least 3% or more. But we would also encourage you to perhaps maybe even push that number to even 4 or 5%, because some of the behavioral research that we found with the auto enrollment and auto default is that there was more of a sticky rate at that 4 to 5%. Participants were still saving at a 5% rate and they would be at a 3% rate. So why not place them in the 5% rate, because they're just going to stay there anyway. So there's a lot of different things, and Michael and his team can kind of walk you through some of those tips and tricks, if you will, in regards to those plan design features on the auto enroll.
Great.
And then lastly, but most importantly, participant education, right? I think this is something that a lot of our clients and plan sponsors are always concerned with. Am I providing enough education? Do I need to provide advice? What does that look like? I need the help. And again, that's another way that a retirement plan advisor can provide appropriate guidance to ensure that your employees reach their financial and retirement goals. So on our next slide, you'll see that our employees are facing all different types of financial hurdles and needs in life. And, certainly different retirement, your record keeper as well as retirement plan advisors, we have a lot of different resources and educational support to help address a lot of these different needs. On the next page, additionally, also know that through a lot of the behavioral research that Vanguard has done, we also take in information very differently. So you might have an employee that's really comfortable logging on through their mobile phone, watching a webinar, but then you also have, another employee that's more comfortable sitting down, attending an in-person presentation. Everybody's a little bit different on how they take in information, but what's important for you here as a plan sponsor is to really understand what's going to best engage your employees, and sitting down with your retirement plan advisor to really design an education strategy that helps meet those needs. Michael, any other thoughts or questions that you think that would be important around some more of these plan sponsor roles?
I think it's critical to be engaged with an advisor and a record keeper that can be collaborative and work together to educate and to serve participants.
Yeah.
And I think our team here at Phillips and Company has really enjoyed a extremely collaborative relationship with your team at Vanguard.
Absolutely. Yeah, it is definitely, those are probably where we've seen the greatest stories of success with our plan sponsors and participants, are partnering with firms like yourself, because you do have the ability to design a very specific and customized strategy for each and every one of your clients. And that is critical. And that's where we've seen the most success in increasing savings rate for plan participants.
Absolutely.
So, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So Kartika, can you tell us how a plan sponsor should look at the fees in their plan? Let's dive into that a little bit.
Absolutely, yeah. So fees have always been, and they're going to continue to be a key focus for plan sponsors. And what we've seen is, certainly investors have a preference for low-cost investments, and that's what we see in the headlines. Organizations and businesses are also continuing to push for lower fees on the service side as well. So on the record keeping, the plan administration, and even the investment advisory side. And so what the Employee Retirement Income Security Act of 1975, or ERISA as we know it, requires that plan fiduciaries do is, again, ensuring that they're acting solely in the best interest of their plan participants, and that fees that are paid for plan services are reasonable. Now, certainly we can talk and spend an entire webinar trying to uncover, well, what's reasonable? Probably the best way to uncover that story is to work with your current provider or work with your retirement plan advisor. Usually there's benchmarking reports available to you to understand where do your fees sit in comparison to similar programs in the industry. Sure. So that's always important to uncover. But really determining the reasonableness of fees is just the first step. Once you've determined if that fee is reasonable, you'll then have to consider how are you actually paying for those fees. And the Department of Labor has acknowledged that there's really just lack of clarity on this matter. They haven't given us direct instruction in regards to how should I be paying for fees? Do I pay it directly? Do I have participants pay for it? There isn't a right answer. It's really dependent upon you as a plan sponsor and how your organization is run. But at Vanguard, what we've done is we've tried to create some guidance that can help plan sponsors determine what's going to be the most appropriate method for allocating fees for the investment and record-keeping services for your plan. And that really includes, again, a process, mentioned earlier, always have a process in place and document it, a process for evaluating those plan fees, and then just even understanding items like what you see on the screen. So if a participant does pay for those fees, how are they paying for it? Is it on a pro rata or per capita basis? So we'll dive into that a little bit more.
Great.
Okay. Again, over the last 25 years, record-keeping structure and the types of services provided to a plan and its participants has really determined the method that are used to pay for plan assets. But what we saw with the new fee disclosure rules, just a few years ago, is that plan sponsors are now required to have a sharper definition and delineate, what those differences are of the fees and services, and have a true, transparent understanding of what fees they're paying for. So this has really led a lot of plan sponsors to go to their fee disclosure statements and reevaluate how they're paying for fees. And so earlier, as I mentioned, there's really three major components to retirement plan fees. The first being the record-keeping fee, the second being the investment management or those mutual fund expenses, and the third, non-record keeping fees, such as retirement advisory services. So for today's discussion, what I'm going to do is really focus in on that record-keeping fee and how that can be paid. And again, fees are going to be either paid by the participants, they can be paid by you as the plan sponsor, or sometimes it's really just a combination of both. What Vanguard is seeing with our clients is that we are seeing more sponsors paying that fee directly. However, there are still some ways that the fee can be paid by participants. There's really just a couple different ways. So as I mentioned earlier, if you choose for some or all of your record-keeping fee to be paid by the participants, you can either select a per capita or a pro rata basis. And again, there's no right or wrong way to pay for these fees, but it's important to understand the differences. With pro rata, the fee is going to be spread equally among participants and remain the same regardless of the account balance or market conditions. So in this arrangement, the fees are going to remain fixed. And with this arrangement, a lot of plan sponsors like the transparency associated with it. Alternatively, with pro rata, this is where it is allocated on the basis of assets in the participant's account. Fees are usually included in either the expense ratio of the plan investments or in some form of revenue sharing or attribution credit. In this arrangement, participants' fees will generally rise as the account balance grows with contributions or Again, they could even fall as a result of any withdrawals or distributions. In addition, each participant's fees may rise and fall according to market fluctuations as well. So again, in this arrangement, plan sponsors really just need to understand that those participants who carry a larger balance are just going to pay more as compared to those with the lower balance. And so this arrangement is really best and benefits those participants who have a smaller balance in the plan. So again, just important to understand the differences and really make what makes sense for you. But whatever method you do choose, plan fiduciaries are required to deliberate and analyze and document these issues and decisions being made to how fees are being paid. And again, a best practice that Vanguard encourages our clients is to really just adopt a fee policy. And this is designed to help provide structure for your fee discussion and again, have that documentation in place. And while the policy is helpful, it's not mandated, but I will say this again, it's another way that your retirement advisor can step in and provide oversight in that documentation and process.
Great.
Okay. Michael, any other questions, or is there anything on the line that we need to address?
So one of the questions that I seem to get fairly regularly from plan sponsors is how many plans are actually offering auto enrollment now?
Yep, so the research that we've done, close to 50% of Vanguard's clients have adopted auto enrollment in the last year. We project that that will continually grow just based on, again, the guidance from the Department of Labor and retirement plan experts like your teams, as well as even record keepers like Vanguard. We all encourage these types of enrollment features to help encourage participation. And so we'll probably see that grow to 50, close to 60% in the next 5 years is our prediction. The other key piece of this is auto enroll is just one step. We also see many of our clients also adopting auto savings increases, right, or auto deferral increases. Of those that have adopted auto enroll, 66% of them are also implementing the auto increase. So with that mechanism, again, it's automatically going to increase each participant's deferral or savings rate, let's say, for example, by 1% each year. And again, that's just going to help them get closer to reaching that retirement goal of, that, as you mentioned earlier, that 12 to 15% savings rate, which is what is suggested.
Great, thank you. Another question that we get often is, how often should I evaluate my plan services and fees and even the IPS as well?
Absolutely. As a best practice, plan sponsors need to review their plan, the plan document, the design, the investment policy statement, at a minimum, at least once a year on an annual basis. If you're not doing it at least on an annual basis, one of the general guidelines we've seen is that a lot of plan sponsors are also doing a full plan evaluation every 3 years. But I would say as a best practice, you as a plan sponsor and a plan committee need to set some time, set an agenda, and make sure that you're reviewing all of these items that we reviewed with you today. The team here at Phillips, they have, I'm sure, a checklist that they can share with you of some of the best practices in those agenda topics in regards to making sure that your plan design is appropriate, making sure that your investments are in line for the goals for your plan. So I would highly encourage you to do that at least on an annual basis. And the team here at Phillips can help make sure that you meet that requirement.
And make sure that we're using appropriate benchmarking tools and so forth.
Absolutely, yeah. With benchmarking tools, at the very minimum, I would, you should always check with your current record keeper. They always have some type of plan reporting and benchmarking tool. At Vanguard, we have those tools available. We have complimentary fiduciary benchmarks reports, and our advisors like yourself will use that to supplement the research that you do.
Sure.
But also I know it's really important to get some third-party benchmarking data as well, and that's where our retirement plan advisors will also go out. They'll benchmark your plan to ensure that, again, it's competitive within, your industry and plan size.
Great, thank you. Thank you. I just wanted to reiterate something that Kartika talked about earlier, and that's utilizing a dedicated 401k advisory firm like Phillips and Company in conjunction with the leading innovative 401k providers like Vanguard. And that allows you to have a very complete, a very strong arrangement that will not only help your participants get to those retirement goals that they have, but ensure that you're following a distinct process that's documentable and really protects you as the plan sponsor overall. I'll end by first thanking each one of you for joining us and encouraging you to reach out to us. Kartika and I are both available by phone or email. Our contact information is on the screen. Please call either one of us. Let us know that you heard about us or saw or heard this webinar, and give yourselves a chance to leverage the support that we bring to the table and to compare services and costs, to see a proposal, or just answer some questions that you might have. Most importantly, we can help drive overall retirement plan effectiveness for you and for your participants.